Hey Luke, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. Let's jump straight in. First off, let's start with how did this all happen for you? Just give people a brief rundown of how you ended up with OP.
What I remember was that I was in the gym and I was doing some adductor exercises, and after doing them, I started to get a lot of pain in my adductors, and it was really uncomfortable. And I expect I'd had other issues going on before then, but this was the first time I'd ever had you know pain that lasted a long time in that area. Initially I thought it would just go away, but it didn't just go away. It just kept on getting worse to the point where it was frustrating me quite a lot. And I'd had other injuries and different things go on, so I didn't really want to go to kind of the doctors here in England and just go through the whole kind of physio route again, because I know how problematic that is to end up kind of getting something fixed. So I, went online to look things up, and I don't know. Yeah, I ended up coming across your website, or coming across a YouTube video, and I watched the videos, and it really explained very well exactly what I was experiencing, and it seemed to really match with what I had. And you seemed to be quite confident that you had an answer to it, and I kind of immediately connected with your kind of confidence about it, and that's why I got in touch. And then we did I think you offer an introductory session or a sort of half an hour session where you kind of ask me to kind of go through some different movements, and
Yeah.
you got to do that. I think it was the bird dog. I think you got me to do that in that first session, or you were just kind of checking to see whether you thought that you would be able to help me. And I think, it kind of went from there, and then I began the program.
So yeah, I'll just jump in and just explain. So anyone watching this, basically what I'll do with someone is, so OP, from my expert opinion, is generally caused by bad movement patterns. People move their pelvis in a way that overloads their pubic bone and their adductors and causes the injury, right? But sometimes, really rarely, OP can actually be really caused by bad dietary stuff or like emotional trauma and things like that through there. So what I'll do is I'll meet with someone for a shorter session, and then I will do just like get them to perform these really basic movement tests. And what I'm looking for is to go, okay, cool. I'm asking you to lift a hand off the ground. What is your pelvis doing? And, if your pelvis is healthy, it'll do one thing. If it's doing unhealthy, it'll show this dramatic problem or issue through there. And then from that, I'm going, okay, if that person's doing that in this test, they're probably doing that when they're walking or running or doing their sport. And I can see, then I can be like, oh, I can see how they would have worn their pelvis out versus, okay, they're showing me, yeah, their hips move a little bit, but it's not that bad, and they're not doing that much running. So I'm not sure whether this is primarily a mechanical issue. So therefore, I don't know whether I should be the first point of call. Maybe you should go see your doctor, go get some tests, make sure, if you're a woman, you don't have PCOS or something like that, or you don't have some sort of urogenital issue or something like that that might be creating this kind of pain and giving us a sort of false positive on the OP side. And so that's what Luke's just describing there, is I just taken through a few tests. What it also does is, like, my big thing is I just want people to, hey, yeah, it's great. You have to understand it's such a difficult condition to fix. You have to understand why you have it. And so if you can see your pelvis sliding to the side on this really basic test, and then when your pelvis slides to the side, you're yanking on your adductors, to me, it's a very simple way, mechanical way to understand why it is you have your condition. And yeah, that's what we make a reference to there. Sorry, keep going, mate.
Yeah. So, well, I remember when we had that first session, and I sort of, figured or kind of hoped that I had some ability in terms of movement, and I did quite a lot of exercise and, sports. So I thought that I was quite fit, and I thought that I would be able to do that movement okay. But I couldn't do it. And like, however much I tried, I think, to keep my pelvis stable, I couldn't do it. And at that time, and even, and through the program, I think I I began to kind of understand the importance of that in through the different kind of exercises that I had to do every week until, after many sessions and hours, I began to kind of connect with that part of my body to the point where I was able to use it more effectively and keep it more stable. But it was only through doing, through going through the program, through doing the, through making myself do the homework. I mean, and doing it week after week, that I eventually got to that point. And I always felt really, when at the end of the session, when you sort of go onto your spreadsheet as the session's coming to an end, and you start putting in the exercises that you want me to do for the week. I'm always interested to know the ones that you're going to give me. And after the session, I'd always go on and like have a look at what was there. But it was always also quite sort of daunting, because there would be 5 or 6 videos there, each of which were maybe 3 or 4 minutes, that I would actually have to study quite a lot to understand before I could even attempt to do the exercise. And then I also had to record them and send them to you. And the first times I did the exercises, they were rubbish. So I couldn't send the first videos of the ones that I did, or I could, but I knew that I'd get a lot of get even more feedback than I would do if I'd worked a bit harder on them. So it was hard work, but I kind of got into the rhythm of it and sort of buckled down to it and enjoyed it, and started kind of enjoying the fact that not enjoying the fact, but kind of getting to the point where there are all sorts of different exercises that I could do. And then as you go through the program, you end up getting nostalgic about some of the ones at the beginning of the program.
It's funny how you realize, you realize how far you've come, kind of things. It's funny. You touch on something that I find really like interesting, which I call is like the guilt confidence paradox, which is right. If you have complete confidence, which not to offend any Americans here, but often a lot of Americans do, and like, I'm doing this exercise perfectly, I'm nailing it, I'm great. And you look at it and you're just like, what is going on? Like, this is just horrible, right? So if you have complete confidence, you won't learn anything. And then you have no guilt, so you won't work very hard at it. If you have too much guilt and no confidence, then you just get so paralyzed that you can't work on these like bigger problems. They just like, they paralyze you and you don't do anything. And so then you don't get better. And you need this perfect amount of like, just enough guilt that you're like, I don't want to send a crappy video. I don't want to like, I want to do well. I want to like, it's like guilt and ownership that, but still enough irrational confidence to be like, oh, this looks really hard, but I can do it. Like, I'll get there, kind of things. And in your mind, you think, oh, I'll get there this week, when in reality, it's going to take like 2 or 3 weeks. But something in your brain convinces you that I'll get it done this week. And so you completely send it in, and I'll send back some notes and be like, it's not quite right. And then like 2 weeks later, you'll nail it. And all of a sudden you just do that over and over again until it's like, oh, wow, I started with this little baby version of it. Now look at me on 1 foot, balancing on a balance disc, like, throwing this ball around or like moving this weight plate, and I can totally handle it. But it's like the guilt confidence paradox. You have to sit right in the middle of that scale. Like, you need to be right somewhere in the middle, and too far on either end, and it doesn't work. People don't get better. And it's just a really weird phenomenon that I've noticed over the years.
I like the idea of being able to kind of do, when I couldn't do some of the early exercises, I kind of looked at some of the ones that were coming up and kind of got excited about the idea of one day being able to do them. But you're right, most of them took me a heck of a long time to be able to do. Like, when I first started, it took me ages to kind of, I remember doing body squat after body squat without any weight. And, that took me ages to kind of get my head around. And then I saw that one of the exercises coming up was the padded squat, when you pads and you put the kind of weight off that. And when the first time I saw that, I was like, God, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to do that. And when I was able to do it, I got a real sense of achievement from it. And all the time, you're kind of learning how to recruit your glutes. I remember one time when I was like I was with my family, and I was sort of saying to them that I was doing this program, and they basically asked me, what is the program? And I said, well, it's essentially, I mean, this is a total oversimplification of it. It's essentially like 100 different ways of doing a squat. Because there are, say, you
Be accurate.
squat in different ways, in so many different variations, that there's no kind of form of squat that you don't do at some point, whether it's a kind of kettlebell or a dead. And I've never like lifted weights, pushed weights before I did this program. So being able to kind of, do a deadlift with weights, made me feel quite, I felt good about that. I'd seen people doing that in the gym, but thankfully the way that you teach people to do it is a lot safer, I think, than the way that people do it in the gym.
Yeah, I'd hope so too. So like how long ago was all this? Because yeah, I'm completely blanking on that. Like how long
Oh,
ago?
it was a long time ago. So when I first started doing the program, I think it must have been about 2018 or something like that.
Yeah, Jesus, that was a while ago. All right, why don't you like just before we sign off then, just tell people how you're feeling with it now, how you're going with it all, and how it's just things like so long ago kind of thing.
Well, I think it was maybe, say, I mean, it was maybe 8 weeks or something like that before. It was a good couple of months before I didn't have any pain at all in my adductors, which is the reason I came in the first place. And then once that had gone, and once I felt like I knew my body better, then thankfully I was able to get back to doing the kind of sport that that I love to do, which is triathlon. And I remember while I was doing the OP program, I wasn't on my bike really. But by the end of it, I was getting back on my bike again. And then when I'd kind of got through the program, then I just got back on my bike again, and I was out cycling again. And yeah, I wasn't feeling that pain in my adductors, and I knew how to use my glutes, and I had more confidence in my body. And then from there, I just got back into the running, and eventually I was able to, get back to doing triathlon again, which is what I love, and which is what I wasn't able to do during that time. And I, after a few years of sort of keeping on training and not getting injured, and feeling much more confident in my body, and having a sustained period without any kind of injuries, because the program isn't just about the SI joint and OP. It's about how everything connects together. And I had lots of problems in other areas of my body with my feet and stuff. You know how many problems I had there. But all of them also, I managed to kind of get through all of those as well, to the point where I was able to return to triathlon. And the first triathlon I did after my time out, getting over OP and other issues, was in Barcelona in 2021. I didn't sort of do it particularly quickly, but it was a huge achievement to get back to it, and I finished it, and it was one of the proudest achievements of my life. And since then I've done another 3 half Ironman triathlons, and just finished my most recent one in Weymouth. And even though I'm getting older, I'm actually getting better, and it just wouldn't be the case had I not met you, and had I not learned how to move better through everything that I've learned through your program. So that's the honest truth.
No, I appreciate that. I think you're underselling it a little bit. So like Luke got through his OP stuff. Then you had, well, I always forget the name of it. Like you had the Morton's neuroma in your foot, right? You got another one in the foot, I think.
In both feet, yeah.
Yeah, and then I feel like there was a couple other things. So like I don't know, like from my perspective, right? Like I'm not like wasn't born with the greatest body. I had to deal with a bazillion things that are going wrong. It's the hardest thing to kind of like have a goal and a thing that you want to do, and then to push towards it, and have these things just keep like derailing you, kind of things. And like the idea of like you're getting better, you're getting quicker, right? And like again, like you're not gonna be able to tell by the look of him, like Luke's 50, right? So like to keep getting better and better as you get older, it's to me, it's like, yeah, your athletic potential is going down as you get older. There's no way around it. You're going things, but your efficiency can kind of improve. So you can things, and it's a beautiful thing about distance events. You want to get better at 100-meter sprint, and bad luck. Once you're past 21, like you're not, like, you know, you've gone past your peak. It's going to be really hard to eke out any better performance like past that point. Like you will if you're the best of the best, but it's really, really hard. For distance events, you can just like efficiency has so much more to do with it and stuff like that. And so it's this thing, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Your body can kind of keep breaking down. But if you just understand the baseline principles of how your body's supposed to develop and get stronger, it's like you can keep chipping it away at it. And so it's like, you know, you would have like, you know, I can't remember the exact genesis of how like you got that other mods neuro, but would have been like, okay, cool. I dealt with my OP, back training and back running, things are going great. And it's like, oh, that foot problem that I probably fixed enough to get my OP better is now not okay for my running, right? Like I can't deal with that. And then, you know, we just met up a couple of times. You did some stuff, you had figured out some stuff on your own, right? And then you went back and you figured that foot thing out. And then it's things, and now you're going to get faster and better. And it's like, you know, things, and then you're going to run into another problem. It's just going to happen. You're going to run into another problem and issue, like it was the SIJ recently. There'll be another issue as you get faster and better and as you get older kind of things. And then you'll have to figure that problem out. But it's just kind of like, oh, if it's like, you know, if that's just the way it is to do the thing you love, like as long as you're in control of it, like what does it matter? Like you can just deal with it, get stronger and keep going sort of things. And it's just this idea that like, oh, you have to continually work at your body, especially if you're not uber talented and you weren't born with a great body and you have this. And if you have OP, there's a good chance you probably weren't like, you know, the most lucky athlete to not have a lot of injuries beforehand. Because most people have OP have had injuries beforehand. But it's like, oh, if you can just put yourself in a position where you're in control and if you're willing to put the work, then you can get over all injuries, not just OP kind of things. But it is just like, oh, am I willing to just keep going and put the work in? Because if you do that, then yeah. And I think you're underselling that a little bit because your body keeps throwing stuff at you and you just keep adapting and changing and getting stronger and better. And that's why, you know, you're able to keep doing what you're doing, because other people would have folded in that point. And like, you know, a lot of people do with OP, they just fold because it's so hard to get over. But anyway, I thought I should mention that. Thank you so much for doing this. And anyone watching this, hope you took a lot. But yeah, thanks so much, Luke.
No problem. That's a pleasure. Thank you for all of your help.